San Diego Comic-Con has wrapped, and we've got all the juiciest topics tonight. Hold on to your capes, people. You're about to join Super Geeks.
All right. Thank you for joining us. We've been on a little bit of a hiatus because we wanted to change...
A little bit?
Yeah, a little bit. All right, a lot of it.
Months, George.
That's a lot of it. There's no definition for it. It's like saying a couple of minutes. What's a couple? Well, no, that's actually two. Never mind. My point
Months.
is... You know what? It's all timey-wimey. But anyways, we're doing an at-will format now, so if Will was here, I would say we're firing at Will. Ha, ha. Maybe
Yeah, that doesn't get old at all,
here
ever.
All week.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to introduce who's here today. With us today, returning, is Carlos Pedraza. Carlos, how you doing?
Doing great. Happy to be back.
Can you tell the audience what you do, where you're from, and your connection to the geekdom?
Well, I'm a former fan film producer for Star Trek New Voyages and Hidden Frontier, and now I'm an independent filmmaker, currently touring the country with my third feature film. And I also run Axamonitor, the site that has been documenting the Axanar controversy with around the lawsuit from CBS and Paramount.
Awesome. And also joining us is Dr. 12.5. Michael Hinman. How you doing, Michael?
Hey, I'm doing great.
Michael, tell everybody what your connection to the geekdom is.
I guess not much. I guess I've seen a TV show here and there. And I had to cover entertainment for a long time, for like almost 20 years. Starting with Sci-Fi Portal, going to Airlock Alpha, and more or less with Geek Nation right now. But I'm based out of New York City, and just watching TV shows. Does that count? Does that make me geek?
Yes. If you work for a geek site and you're not a geek, that's just wrong.
But I know some that are like that. But
Don't kid yourself. He's a huge geek.
Being a geek.
Yeah, I've heard of science fiction. Does that count?
Yeah, I remember. I'm 46, and I remember back when people tried to shame us all, But now it's cool. So yay! Also joining us today is myself, George, your host, but also my friend Ross. How you doing, Ross?
Hey, I'm good.
And Ross has been a regular host on the show for a while, and he also helps me out with some stuff out there in the audio world. And Ross, where can people find you? What do you do lately with your website? Pimp yourself, sorry.
Well, lately I've been working at a video store. Yes, they still exist. But what you meant to say was Live Love Play, or www.iliveloveplay.com, or just Live Love Play is my multimedia content site where I host Super Geeks, as well as my Twitch stream, twitch.tv/live_love_play. And I also have channels on Facebook, VidMe, and a couple other sharing sites out there. I produce geeky content from gaming, interviews, and original content such as the RPG show Gods of Yukon and the retrospective rewatch series Getting Lost in Space with Mark Cushman.
All right, and then also joining us is Sun CL. Sun, how are you, and what other geekdom things do you do? Because I know you do Tribbles and Ecstasy, right?
Yeah, I'm basically a casual geek, maybe. But yeah, I co-host Tribbles and Ecstasy, which is a Star Trek Online /timeline /Star Trek related podcast. And occasionally I also co-host on a Doctor Who related podcast, Straight Out with Gallifrey.
That's right. I have hosted on there before myself. Great podcast. All right, so we're going to jump right into it because there's two big topics that are worthy of discussion. Well, there's a lot out there that's worthy of discussion. And the first one is...
So much.
Yeah. Star Trek Discovery is... they just aired their San Diego Comic-Con second trailer. Well, yeah, in general. And I'm going to ask some questions of everybody. I got specific questions. But for me, one of the things that stuck out was... Well, there's a few things. I loved the Battlestar Galactica reboot vibe that the space combat gave me. Now, granted, space combat's not the most important part of Star Trek, but it gave me chills. And we learned a lot, too. They revealed a lot. At Comic-Con's panel, producer Alex Kurtzman assured the fans that... because Michael Burnham was revealed to be Spock's adoptive sister. And Alex Kurtzman assured the fans that they are fully aware of canon and asked us to be patient and wait to see where they're going with this story. Michael, do you think the fans are going to accept Spock having an adopted sister, and do you think it was a bad idea or not?
Well, I don't get this whole thing where everybody thinks that we understand all the families, even of the main characters. I mean, Spock, believe it or not, is still quite an undeveloped character. And you know what? I would be honest with you. I would rather have an adopted human sister or whatever she's supposed to be than Cybok from Star Trek V, like any day.
Here, here.
I'm sorry.
As he was presented in Star Trek V, I think there's a lot more to Cybok that would make him more interesting as a character outside of how we saw him.
But
we'll never get that chance.
But all we saw him, though, is in Star Trek V, which was poorly written. I mean, he was just introduced, like, he could have been a great character. It could have been fascinating to find out about, illegitimate children of Sarek had running around. But, I mean, but to be honest, the one thing I don't like about this whole premise that they're doing is I don't understand why it had to be Sarek. Why, I mean, there has to be more Vulcans somewhere on that planet besides Sarek and Spock and a few other people, right?
Yes, but very few who are married to a human woman who actually has the insight to help raise a human child.
The actor himself, and I'm sorry I can't remember his name. Here comes Will.
James Frayne.
James Frayne. James Frayne. Hi, Will. Thanks for joining us. James Frayne said that the reason they did this was Sarek's whole life up to this point was Vulcan, and then all of a sudden he falls in love with a human woman, has a half-human child, so he's trying to adapt to that. Then this character is thrown into their lives, and he's already kind of been fascinated on his journey to sort of overlook his people and understand humans, because like James Frank pointed out, Vulcans are more emotional than humans. They control it, and so it fascinates a lot of Vulcans, sort of like how Jolene Blaylock portrayed T'Pol, which was there's tons of emotions. It's the restraint, that makes the acting through that. The eyes.
Yeah, but by this point in the Star Trek timeline, if we are following the Prime timeline, which includes Star Trek Enterprise, there's been plenty of interactions between Vulcan and Earth by this point. And I just, and so I think that even though, Sarek, had some fascination with humans, I mean, he's not the only one that interacted with them. And to me, I just think that a little, I don't know, I just feel like they're just trying to, I guess try to grab fans in kind of a cheap way by throwing out familiar names, which I just don't think it's necessary. I think that if you're going to have a new show, let's have new characters.
Well, if you're going to have... You're largely getting that, though. I don't have a problem with Sarek being in this show. I think you're not going... I don't know if you're going to see him being, a huge character in the show.
He seems to have a mentor
swallowed something wrong.
kind of role.
Pardon?
He seems to have more of a mentor-ish role for the character. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically a touchstone both for the audience and for the character of Michael Burnham. And I think that's fine. That's, it's an entry for it's a hook for old fans and just an interesting device for new fans who may not know or care.
He's like the character Robin Williams reported to at the end of every episode of Mork and Mindy.
Oh my God, that's a very good analogy, son. I like that. Or Orson. Yeah, Orson. Yeah.
I'd agree with you more, Michael, if there were more than one original series character in Discovery. Like if there was a younger version
like
of
a Harry
Montgomery
Mudd?
Scott around.
Like
but
a Harry
it-
Mudd lying around.
Yeah, but
too?
well,
I
but
mean,
he's not
Yeah,
going
but
to be a regular character.
That's
Mudd was
true,
all
that's true.
Mudd, like Sarek, was a supporting character who only showed up once or twice or three times in the case of Mudd in the original series.
Actually,
And
that's true. And Mark Leonard only played Sarek in actual one episode of the Babel episode with TOS. He was more in the other shows. And
it was more in the movies.
Right.
But
And
yeah,
movies.
so we've only got two characters with the opportunity to see them in different ways, but they're not the focus. They're not the central point of our point of view. It's Michael.
And believe me, if they had gone with zero crossover characters from the other series, then we'd be hearing people complaining about, well, this is, and I've actually heard this before we knew who all was going to be in this show, but people saying, they're in a universe we know. How can they not refer to Sarek or Kirk or Pike or April or these people who play big roles in the history of the Federation at this point? People will always find something to complain about. So
it would be yeah, and it would be to me the realism versus the we're going to write a story for the fans is, well, how often do we ever personally reference Winston Churchill when you're in the military? I've never even heard his name got brought up when I was in the Army, but he's a big, huge part, including Patton, but he was not mentioned once in my entire time when I was in the Army. But if you really want to get down to it, yes, if you have to pick people who are historically valuable, those are the people you go to. But that's a good point. But during this time period, Sarek he's not as great as a name as he was in The Next Generation with Picard. And
I would not be opposed to finding out more about number one in Discovery if she's around.
I have a feeling that eventually we are going to see something going on with Enterprise in this entire series when it gets to, maybe next season.
It won't be in the first season. And if you do, it'll be, think about how in the other series, there was only a little bit of crossover between DS9 and The Next Generation, and even less so with Voyager. So, it's just enough to keep some hooks in, to get people to move over, to transfer to the new series. And I'm fine with that. As long as the
crossovers,
show,
though, had a different purpose in the 90s. You didn't see it that often, and it was usually
Hercules and Xena.
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
Star Trek operates within a very large universe, as opposed to a lot of shows in the 90s, which were very self-contained, with the exception of things like Hercules and Xena. But with the success of shows like The Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, and the expanding Arrowverse, I wouldn't be surprised for later on for there to be more crossover events in Star Trek series as Discovery moves forward, and possibly with anything else they decide to introduce.
Like Defenders coming out. I think that they are building a shared universe, just my opinion. I think they're waiting to see, like Carlos, we talked about this before the show started here. I think that CBS is waiting to see the numbers, but they Netflix outbid Amazon to get the rights to Discovery for the UK, and I really think that what's coming is a shared universe. They're going to make another Star Trek show, or maybe even a third, but it won't be like DS9 and Voyager where you're transitioning, like you have one season where they're all on the air at the same time and then one of them ends. I think what's going to happen is we're going to have, in a few years, we're going to have three of them on at the same time, and then there will be those crossover episodes, whether it's done through time travel or because one of the shows could be like in the far future or whatever. I think there is going to be a setup, and they're going to copy that model that's working so well on TV right now in the movies with the MCU with the crossovers.
Yeah, but I don't. But Star Trek's already. Star Trek was probably the first to really do that. And to me, it's just like when you had Next Generation on at the same time as Deep Space Nine, and then later when Next Generation went off the air, the Deep Space Nine was on at the same time as Voyager, plus all the movies that were going on out there. It was just too much. And to be honest, the Marvel, what's happening with Marvel right now, and a little bit with DC is working well, but at some point it's going to oversaturate.
I think you're starting to.
I agree with Michael. Less is more.
You're already seeing that with the Arrowverse, if you will,
I mean, look at what the ratings have been doing from the last season. They're all down. They're getting saturated. And we've seen it with Star Trek. I mean, the Next Generations, the viewership has slightly declined over those episodes, those series, until you get to Enterprise, and then they finally took it off the air before it went they could do it themselves.
Well, here's the thing about that: Discovery, and presumably everything that's coming after, is exclusively on CBS All Access.
Or Netflix,
there isn't any competing time slots. You're not going to have, like we saw in the 90s, Next Generation and DS9 overlapping up by a half hour on different networks. You're not going to have Deep Space Nine and Voyager overlapping at the same time on the same on a different network.
Problem there. This is a story and concept problem.
Because what happened? Because where Carlos is going with that is that you're stretching it way too thin. You had people that the stories were starting to repeat themselves. You weren't getting fresh blood into it, and what happens is that and like I said, it's like you're seeing that with Iron Fist right now with Marvel. It's seeing with some of the other shows that are starting to show that stretchiness where you're just pulling everything way too far out, and at some point it's going to snap back and it's going to snap you like right in the ass.
That's
Iron Fist had problems, but I don't think it was.
Iron Fist had a problem with casting. They had the wrong guy in there.
It had several problems. Casting was one. It just wasn't as strong a storyline as
I think it would have been better
Marvel
with
shows.
a different actor. I just don't see him as being
the problem
man
is having a white guy be a.
I'm not talking about race. I'm just talking about him as the actor.
I know, but that's the central concept of the show.
I didn't empathize with him like I did with the other three. But he just didn't hit the mark like the other three did.
It's very hard to compare to Jessica Drew.
But also, you mean Jessica Jones?
Jessica Drew.
Wow, sorry.
Jessica Drew, love that.
But here's my thinking, like, just to kind of, the thing about what you said, Will, is that in the Iron Fist by himself as a show didn't work, but he introduced the character, so it did that job. I think if you watch the trailers for the Defenders, and I heard they showed the actual first episode at Comic-Con, people loved it. I think Danny worked, that character and the actor works in a ensemble. It just, by himself with his own thing, it wasn't as successful.
Okay, well, taking that, why didn't they do like they're doing with Hulk and just leave him as a person that floats from movie to movie and not give him his own separate movie?
Well, there's reason for that.
Well, yeah, I know, but for this particular
no parallel
character,
between Iron Fist and Hulk. I'm sorry.
I know. I'm not trying to draw a parallel between superheroes. I'm trying to draw a parallel between those Hulk movies failed previously, so they don't want to go to that Hulk and have him carry the movie on his own. It's the same thing with I didn't like Iron Fist. I haven't even finished the series. I can't get through it.
I agree, but we're going off topic. We're focused on Discovery right now. But I see what you're saying. I see in general what you're saying about the concern about the show. And speaking of concerns, Ross, one of the biggest and loudest reactions to the series so far has to be the Klingons, right? What aspects of the Klingons do you think are concerning the fans the most, and do you yourself have any reservations?
There's always going to be a little bit of pushback when you change something big and iconic. And the Klingons are iconic. That's why they included them in Discovery. They needed that, as we've said before, that hook to bring people in, something familiar. But these Klingons aren't familiar, and that's the deal. The trefoil is still there. It looks like the death ritual is still there, but these Klingons to some people look more like Xindi than actual Klingons. The design of their armor, their ships, it's so radically different that a lot of people feel a little shell-shock about it.
I have a rant I've been preparing for 2 weeks.
Go for it.
Uh-oh.
Go for it, man.
I think this notion that all Klingons of all time have to look and act exactly the same is ridiculous and racist. If you look at the planet Earth, I could take. There are pygmies in Africa that I could put next to a super tall Scandinavian, and they're the same species.
That's me, by the way.
All right. You heard it here first.
The pygmy or the Scandinavian?
That no Klingon could look different from the leather-clad ones that we've seen before. It's just patently ridiculous. There are different. On our one planet, we have hundreds of different cultures that do different things with their hair and they even change their bone structure.
Virus. And that's without a metagenic
virus.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and not all Klingons are warriors. Not all, like, we think that every single Klingon must be like they're all going to fight to the death, and and no, but there's different Klingons. You all do different things. I mean, it's a society that has to function with all different castes, and and we see the warriors because they're the ones that are kind of that face, that interplanetary face, but but at the same time we're talking about what the Klingons look like. This is like, what, the fourth time that the Klingons have changed? What do they really look like? I mean, why can't we just allow them to evolve and allow the special effects to evolve? Because we can't have them looking like they did in the original series, because
not only that, Michael,
that would never compete.
But not only that, to follow up what you said, Michael, here's my argument. When the original series came out, Gene Roddenberry even admitted this years ago. In his headcanon, this is kind of sort of like George Lucas with why he did the whole Star Wars redos, is that in his head, they wanted the Klingons to look a certain way. They just didn't have the money and the budget to do it. So when the motion picture came out, then they said, oh, we've got money now. They made them look different. And then, of course, they assumed that the fans weren't going to pay attention to that, which was wrong. So then they tried to retcon that, and they first did it in the anniversary episode with the Deep Space Nine, where they go back in time, and then O'Brien says, "Those are Klingons," and Worf says, "We don't like to talk about it." And that was I thought that was the perfect answer, and it should have ended there. But nope, Enterprise had to go there.
Hey, what Enterprise did was pretty good, I thought.
I agree.
It's okay. It was a stretch. It was unnecessary. I agree with you.
Exactly.
It was unnecessary.
But it wasn't.
It was needlessly complicated.
Excuse me. Hashtag not all Klingons.
But
Until wins this segment of the podcast.
But the thing is, too, is that, it wasn't like that they, that they went out and set out like, oh, we have to explain the change in the Klingons. I mean, when it came to the anniversary episode with the Trials and Tribulations episode, the whole thing about that is that they decided to mesh those two together, and they kind of had to make a quick explanation. They did a throwaway line. It's like, oh, yeah, we don't talk about it. But, but the thing about Enterprise in its fourth season, in a way to try to get itself back to where it should be, get it back on track, was trying to go back, was trying to explore different themes, trying to do what Enterprise was supposed to do,
I agree.
which was fill gaps.
That they had to, yeah.
And I mean, and I think it's fine to do that, and it's just a way to help explain it to fans. And to be honest, to me, it's just like when you see Star Trek Generations, you see the Enterprise bridge. It's the Enterprise D that we think we see from the TV show. All of a sudden, there's like 20 more people working on the bridge than we ever saw before.
Yeah, and the lighting is different.
It's not that they suddenly added them.
They even had an extra station.
The whole idea is that those people were just always there. We just didn't really pay attention to them before.
And Worf had a chair. He had a chair in general.
There were 2 additional consoles on the left and right side of the bridge.
He had a stool. I'm sorry, he had a stool. It's like,
yeah, so, I mean, so this is... Star Trek has done this again and again and again, and it's just the way it works, folks. I mean, this notion that it stuns me to think that people are so wedded to things from half a century ago that they can't see their way clear to allowing a series that's really trying to get back on its feet, frankly, to take advantage of what modern technology offers us to improve our production values.
But Carlos, therein lies the problem. What you just said, to segue off that, is the fans are complaining because, and I kind of hate to admit it, but I kind of see their point. This is why I was wishing they wouldn't have done a prequel again, because we have progressed so far beyond that they were able to do the episodes of both Enterprise with the whole Mirror Darkly thing, where you can revisit the TOS period, which is actually their future, ironically, and yet, and then they did it with the other one. But the problem is that when you try to do a show that's set before that time period, and you try to make, you don't try to make, you can't help but make by default something that looks like the JJ films, which there's nothing wrong with it, but if you're going to say it's in that time period, it's very hard to do it. I'm going to give you a quick example this is
it's not hard at all. They just decided to do it, and I think that's fine. I mean,
hold hold on. My quick example, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, is when Doctor Who just did the episode where they revisited the Mondasian Cybermen, right? They didn't try to say they always looked different. They actually embraced it. They embraced the campy look of those first Cybermen and put them in the episode because they simply said, look, that's one version of this. Instead of trying to say, fans, you need to wipe your memories and say, this is the way they always were. And that's what.
But Doctor Who's a total different animal, though.
Yeah, that is true.
Doctor Who is a show that has the latitude to embrace kind of its, kind of the corniness of what it looked like, some of the retro. Yeah, I mean, it's, it can do that. Star Trek doesn't have that luxury. Star Trek isn't.
How many times has Doctor Who rebooted itself?
Kind of, but I know what you mean.
Mid-season.
Yeah. I see where Michael's saying though, like Star Trek though, but see, that's my problem though is. If you know you can't do that, then go forward. Don't go backwards. If your technology, and
if we were having this conversation before Enterprise was conceived of, I would completely have agreed with you. When Enterprise came out, I thought this is a huge mistake for exactly the reasons that you pointed out, and I agree. But I think we're in a different context right now. We basically have Star Trek on television. Failed. It hasn't been on for over a decade.
It's like 15 years, right? Something like that.
Yeah, that's really long. It's almost as long as, well, it's not even as long as the break between the original series and the motion picture.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you look at it that way, it's been a long time.
We have had movies
in
between those.
Sorry, I used that expression.
No, actually, haven't.
What's that?
Oh, yeah, we've had the those remakes. I mean, those movies have been out.
What
yeah, but I'm talking about on television.
TOS versus the motion pictures. What he's talking about.
Yeah.
It was 1969, and then
1969 and 1979 is when. Yeah, so that's only 10 years. This has been 15.
Yes.
So.
Well, 12.
To fit in to reestablish really the franchise on television, and let's be honest, whether you like the J.J. Abrams movies or not, they are not the spectacular success we would have wished they had been. For a lot of reasons
up in the air,
that we don't have to revisit at this point. But the point is that and a lot of people have made this point, is that Star Trek is a concept that works better on television than it does in movies, and I agree with
you. Yeah.
So I think they had to reestablish their bona fides with not only with fans, because let's face it, the fans of the original series were dying off. We are not a growth industry for CBS or Paramount, or even the Star Trek.
By the way, like Carlos is like really, really fucking old. So
thank you, Michael Hinman. I hate you. But
oh my
it's
God,
true.
I can't wait to let our fans in the not our fans. I mean your fans, not my fans. Your fans in the Axel Monitor site or CBS stuff see this.
Yeah, well,
or hear this. Sorry, you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, yes, I'm old. So they need to reestablish themselves, and going into the future, there's no that far in the future. There's nothing to hook the existing fan base at all in that. You're starting so completely from scratch. I feel like they needed this next series to be rooted in what's known, going in its own direction, obviously, as it should, but enough there to interest old fans, with the new fans being attracted by just the concept of the new show. I think you would have had a harder time commercially starting at this point with a show set so far in the future that we have no reference points, basically.
So they did say
Did
they
I mention
wanted...
Carlos is old, by the way?
He is old.
How old is he?
Yeah, well, anyways, he's 912. But anyways,
I did have one, just one little nagging thing about the new trailer that dropped.
What's that? The snail people?
So we've got the Shinzo and the Discovery. Those are two well-known and named
Shinzo,
ships.
by the way, is a beautiful ship. It's just out of place.
Yes. USS Europa, what you doing being exploded? What you doing being exploded? You somewhere you ain't supposed to be being exploded. What you doing out here? Why you in this trailer?
First we've seen of the ship, and it's slowly getting torn to pieces.
And it's a beautiful design. Everybody's going to be talking about the ship. Anyways, go ahead.
Looks like a Miranda to me.
No.
Did you notice the way that the hull undulated as the explosions were going through?
Oh,
yeah, and the navigational deflector being that looks more Star Trek Online. Son will know what I'm talking about. So will Ross.
You can tell Carlos is a geek. He used nerdy words. Undulated.
So where were you going with this, son? Sorry.
No, it's no. That's the thing. You know, we've got the Shinzo and we've got the Discovery, and then all of a sudden in the middle of the trailer, there's this other ship, the USS Europa, just like buckling under like a version of the Borg cutting beam thing that's slicing through it.
Shenzhou.
Looks like it had collided with one of the Klingon ships.
Yeah, Ross did a reaction video, and you mispronounced it. Just so you know, it's Shenzhou. Just so you know.
Yes, I know I mispronounced it.
It's okay, though, because your reaction video was actually adorable.
Well, yeah, I was in the middle of one of my Twitch live streams when the trailer went live, so I decided to watch and react live on the stream.
I thought you were having an orgasm, and I had to rewatch it twice. I'm like, wow, is Ross actually having an orgasm from watching this Discovery? Yes, he is. So, you know.
I wish you could have seen my reaction to the Star Trek 09 trailer the first time I saw it. I was at an anime convention, and it came on in between screenings. I was grinning the entire time, and for at least 10 minutes when I walked out of that little showing room.
Real quick, because I got to move on to the Doctor Who subject here in a minute, but I want to ask Son a quick question. Rainn Wilson, I think I pronounced his name right, is playing Harry Mudd, right? A character from the original series. And what do you think about him being in it? Do you think it's a smart move, or do you think that they're just doing it for a through line? Do you think they can actually expand on his character? Not that we know a lot about him, other than he likes women. What do you think?
At this point, I see Harry Mudd being the equivalent of the Ferengi or the Uridians from Deep Space Nine. He's going to be, at this point, I see him being more of an information broker, especially from what we saw in the trailer.
Okay, so only because we're on a time crunch and I don't want to reduce... I'm sorry, Michael, you were going to say something about Harry Mudd. Go ahead. I saw you trying to pipe up.
I was?
Oh, maybe not.
No. I mean, Harry Mudd is on the show, I heard, but yeah.
He was also the host of the panel at San Diego Comic-Con. I'm not familiar with Rainn Wilson, by the way. Maybe you guys can inform me. Everybody keeps saying, oh my god, it's him playing Harry Mudd, and I'm not even familiar with who this guy is.
From The Office? Did you ever watch The Office?
No, that's probably why I don't know.
Okay, he's most well known from that, because he played a character in that who was pretty funny.
I was impressed with his acting in the trailer, so I'm assuming that he's a very well-received actor, comedian, or something? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, in the time we have left, I want to make sure that we give this at least the 10 minutes it deserves. The 13th Doctor. I mean, I've said a lot on social media. This has caused a lot of... I remember I was at work. You know how people ask, where were you during 9/11? I was at work, and then I got this alert, because I knew it was coming after Wimbledon. Now, the thing about the BBC is they don't tell you exactly when, because they don't know. You're going to receive this thing. So, I got an alert, and I'm sitting there in the middle of work, and I'm like, trying to play it. Our Wi-Fi sucked at work at that time. So I played it, and I saw this hoodie-wearing person walking through these woods. And the first thing I thought was, okay, it's a guy. It's probably Chris Marshall, because the way the person was walking, the way that they shot it, I thought for sure it was a man. And it kept freezing on me. I couldn't finish watching to where the reveal was, and then all of a sudden I saw someone pipe up, it's a woman! And I'm like, okay, I was spoiled. And that sucks because of my work's Wi-Fi. Where were you guys when this popped up? How did you react, and what do you think? Anybody, go.
I was actually watching this reveal several hours later. I was in a live stream watching a puppet interestingly enough, and nobody would shut up talking about it being a woman. And I'm like, okay, we get it. Move on. Move on. Like, you don't have to... Look, okay, everybody, take 5 minutes and go watch the Doctor Who thing. Okay, cool, it's a woman. But yeah, no, I watched it later, and it's like watching this thing, and you know, not even, it didn't even really click in my head at that point that I was watching this reveal trailer, and I'm like, hoodie, hand, and then what got me was the breathing. The breathing sounded very feminine to me. And you got to remember, I'm a person that deals a lot with sound more than a visual or remembering names.
I kind of wish they hadn't done the eyes before the hood. I wish they just cut to the hood, because I feel like every time I watch a reaction video, which is fun with this reveal, I wish they hadn't done the eyes before their hood, because it would have been more of a shocker for the people watching, because it was almost like, you know, you're giving it away and getting people prepared for what's about to happen. You need to let it happen. I don't know. What do the rest of you think?
Well, I mean, obviously, there's been, debate. I haven't taken part because the thing is, I like Doctor Who. I mean, I grew up on Doctor Who. Tom Baker was my doctor, if you will. But
and you grew up in England, right, Will?
I grew up in England, so I watched it. And I watched the episodic way, where they had the cliffhangers every Saturday night, and you had to wait for the following week to get the when he's going to get out of the hole or whatever it was. So I watched it. And again, I go back and try to watch Tom Baker, and yes, they are dated. And I'm sorry to say that. But again, if you're watching that, you're watching it for a different reason. The thing is, I don't have any problem where you try to reimagine a fictional character. Take Shakespeare. Shakespeare has written all these plays. Now, again, he's taken some out of historic characters, but he's had, other things that are fanciful. And when you take a character and then reimagine it, changing its gender, changing its species, whatever, there's nothing wrong with that, because you're simply trying to tell a story. You're going to have people that will like it. You're going to have people that will not like it. You're going to have people that will be up in arms about it. We just talked about Star Trek. People don't like the way they've changed the Klingons. Why?
That's a good analogy.
But the thing is it's irrelevant. You either are going to like it, you're either going to give it a chance, you're going to watch it or not. To be upset that, we now have a female doctor simply because she's a female is pointless. I mean, I don't get the amount of vitriol that has been thrown at her when she hasn't even stepped into the role. The thing is, she's got a lot of pressure on her, unfortunately, because she's going to have to step in, and those people who were in that TV show to make something that people want to watch. It's going to be tough on them, but I think she should at least be given the opportunity, and people should watch it for what it is, not for what you want it to be.
And what do you think, Michael?
What, Doctor Who's a woman? No, I'm just
kidding. No, yeah.
Not yet, but she will be.
I mean, no, I don't understand, where... I mean, the whole point of Doctor Who is that it changes and it evolves with time. And the thing is it's just like presidents of the United States. It's like you had 44 white ones, so it's nice to finally have one that's not white, and actually now you have two that's not white, because now you have one that's orange. And, it's just... Wow. And I think that women are so underrepresented in science fiction. And... and it just seems like we only get like a Buffy every once in a while, maybe an Orphan Black every once in a while, but science fiction, despite
or a Xena,
or a Xena, but despite this huge audience of women, that love science fiction, it just seems like characters are always predominantly men. That's why, I mean, the same people who are complaining about like that first trailer that dropped of Star Trek Discovery, because it was so female-centric, just women everywhere. It's like...
Not just female. They were complaining that there was hardly any white people, if any.
even
Oh,
better.
Jesus.
I mean, I'm tired of. Why does everybody have to look like Carlos all the time? We don't need old men anymore. It's time to get, it's time to to really diversify a little bit, and
Except
so
I ain't white, mister.
I know. Well, I meant
That.
the old part. I meant not the white part, the old part. But but I just don't. I love the fact that it's this actress. I'm excited to see that. And when I watched the trailer, by the way, I kind of picked up it was a woman I think when they kind of went down to like her legs. Like those are definitely women's legs. I mean, take it from a gay guy, those were women's legs. So
I'll take your word for that.
Yeah, either it was the biggest twink ever or it was a woman, and I'm very excited about it. And like I said, I think it's about time. It shouldn't have taken this long.
What I found interesting though, there was somebody on one of the internets, and I don't know, maybe it was on one of my feeds, but because I didn't get into the debate. But apparently people were saying, oh, we now have a woman in this science fiction. But then you had the Star Trek guys come in and say, oh, yeah, we had one of those. She was Janeway back in whatever it was, right? She was the captain of the ship. So, I mean, you can't say that she's now the first, but she's, I mean, so it's...
I think my best reaction to that, someone posted a question. I hate when they try and swap genders on characters just for the hell of it. When has that ever worked? So I immediately piped in Starbuck, Boomer, Kane.
But the thing is, the thing that makes me mad is this. They wanted to do this back before Colin Baker became the Sixth Doctor. They actually wanted to make us. They almost made him go from number. I'm sorry, not Colin Baker. When he was jumping from 6 to 7, I mean, instead of Sylvester McCoy, they actually were fighting for. They asked the creator, not the creator, Verity Lambert and whoever the other guy's name was. Son, help me out. What's that guy's name? The other creator of Doctor Who, the one that was in Adventures in Time and Space. Not the woman, but the guy who was in charge.
Tom Cruise.
I don't know.
There was Verity Lambert. Very Lambert and we'll just insert guy who was in charge at the time.
Just put the people that wrote or just made Doctor
Newman.
Yeah, well, it just came out recently that he actually wrote to the BBC because they asked him for advice on what they should do after Colin Baker because they wanted to get rid of him, and he said a woman, and he said Sidney Newman, that's his name, and they asked him. They said, give me some advice on what we should do for the next Doctor and he said a woman. This was back in 1986, I think, maybe 87, I can't remember. And he said, no, make it a woman and bring me back, and this is what I will charge you for. Let me come back as a producer. And he said it should be a woman. This was back in the 80s when this wasn't even on the table for discussion. These people, the people who made Doctor Who, clearly saw a vision that this character can become anything. Regeneration is not gender exclusive or inclusive. It's one of those things where they've never said, everybody keeps going, but he's always been a man. And Peter Davison, the Fifth Doctor, actually kind of disappointed me when he said, well, he was born a man, so he should regenerate as a man. That actually doesn't scientifically make sense when it's a random thing for your atoms to kind of scramble. Why would he always be a man?
Well, have they ever talked about how the Time Lords procreate? I mean, have they ever gone into depth with it?
They did in a novel which has to do with looms.
Okay, well, I'm not talking about the novel. I'm talking about the TV show. I'm talking about the TV show.
On that once.
Yeah, they did on the TV show.
I think it was on
it's
Pornhub.
called Sex, and they have talked about it.
Well, let's leave that one now. Let's talk about the official show from BBC, not Pornhub, not anything else on the dark web.
Yeah, well, remember when Vashta was talking to the 11th Doctor, Matt Smith, and they're trying to figure out Rever's song, and it was in the Good Man Goes to War, and she's like, I know you blush about this, and she basically was trying to figure out how she was procreated on the TARDIS because of Amy and Rory's wedding night. Yeah, basically they're kind of referring back to, it's the old-fashioned way, it's called sex. And but there's a
Yeah,
book.
but like I said, to me, I've not watched every single episode, so I mean, I've obviously forgotten a lot.
You
from
missed the sex episode?
Yeah, I missed the yes. I was absent that day. I did not turn in, so I had a slip from my mom, so I didn't show up that day. Yeah,
We do have to wrap
but
this
anyway,
up,
the
in
thing
a
is,
second now, so. Go ahead, Will.
if you have a fictional characters and you have a fictional planet and a fantastical premise of a guy jumping through time in a police box, I mean, it's a fantasy. It's not real.
And
It's
before it was a police box,
storytelling
it was just a
Yeah,
steel
but
cylinder.
Here's the problem. It's not about the fictional aspects of Doctor Who. It's the fact that people invest their identity into this show. Same with Star Trek.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
And the problem is that when they change things up like this, and for a very good reason, I think, people, it offends them because it's changing the way they view themselves. And that's why they respond so emotionally, because it's a huge change over which they had no control.
This is why fans is short form for fanatic.
Yes, exactly.
Ooh.
That is
okay.
correct.
Real quick, women have been arguing the most on this. I'm going to shout them out because I told them I would. Last of the Time Lords. I'm an admin there. Most of you guys are members there. Michael, I know you are, and I know Carlos and Son. I'm not sure about you, Will. But the thing is that one of the things that was brought up is that women have been very aggressive about this. And one of the women actually kind of made sense. She told me, I see Doctor Who as a father figure, and that's why I have a problem with it. It's not because of the idea of the gender change. It's because, for me, it's a fatherly figure. So you're changing it to a motherly figure. And my only point was, okay, so she goes from a fatherly to a motherly. You're getting both parents.
That's fair. I don't
what,
view science fiction. I mean, I like it. I read science fiction books. I watch science fiction shows and science fiction movies. But I was a fan when I was 15 years old, when I was watching Star Trek. I lost my fandom, if you will, my fanaticism,
Sort of like
as I got older. I don't go to conventions. I don't dress up. I don't invest myself in these shows because they're not around that long. 5 seasons, 6 seasons, then they're gone. Then you're living on the reruns. So I've never invested myself in them as I did when I was a kid. I just don't put myself in these people's shoes where they are investing in them. I have other things. I have other interests that occupy my time that I spend more time on and, emotionally attached to than a TV show.
Time Lord sex, yeah.
Well, here's my reaction to it when I saw it, and I was given a heads up by a friend of mine who was literally waiting on the edge of his seat for the release, and as soon as it came, he put it on Twitter for me to see, and my reaction was, I see so many new possibilities. And that's what science fiction is supposed to do. It's supposed to open your mind to new possibilities. And I'm excited for seeing what roads they go down because the Doctor is now a woman.
There are always possibilities.
Yes, and I completely 100% agree. I think that it's exciting. I think that the road ahead and the possibilities, this is what science fiction has always been about. And for the people who are arguing that this is a social justice warrior response, not true. Chris Chibnall has said he wanted a female Doctor, and it was like preclusive of this entire... I don't even know is that even a word? Preclusive? But the point is, I'm making it up if it isn't, but... he wanted a female Doctor despite the environment of the social media justice thing going on out there.
Which is mythical anyway.
Right. But he wanted a female Doctor because he had ideas. He had ideas like you guys just said, especially you, Carlos, you just said because of the possibilities of where we could go with that. The whole theme. And I do have to wrap it up because we're on a time restraint, unfortunately, because Ross and I have to do something else.
We got to get
point
geeky.
out one thing.
Yeah.
I want to point out one thing.
Right, go ahead, son.
Just because the new Doctor is a woman does not mean she has to stop being fatherly in any way.
Damn, that's a good... I like that. Any last?
I know quite a few men who
Well, it's
are a
gonna
lot
be
more
interesting
motherly
to
than they are
see-
fatherly.
It's going to be interesting to see the companions, because we've had a lot of female companions.
I'm hoping for a male.
Are they now
companion.
going to have male companions?
Yes, and I think they should. That's
Bring
another
back
subject.
Jack.
What are they going to do with the master? Is she going to stay female, or is she going to become a man and have the male-female
I think they
dynamic?
should flip it.
Opposite
It's my-
the way it was in the 70s.
Keep it
kinda-
Missy. Keep it Missy.
I like Missy. Keep her
Well,
around.
yeah, she is going
Can-
to
can-
regenerate. But,
Can we
Yeah, she's
see
gone,
this?
sorry.
Can we see this new female doctor be River Song's second wife?
She did say that. You're right, son. She said that in what? The Husbands of River Song? I think.
I don't remember.
I think it was that. She talked about it.
No.
Anyways,
It was the one where she meets Capaldi.
Yeah, that
Christmas
was the one
episode.
that was the.
Like, you
Husbands of
remind
River
me of my second wife.
Yes, that was the husband's. Okay, so yes. Yeah, so. Jan, there's so much more we could talk about. You know what? I'm going to bookmark that whole conversation because I think we're going to all find out more about the companion choice and everything, and there's going to be a lot more to discuss on the future episodes. And that's why I like the whole new format, at will, because we can just yell at Will. Haha, see what I did there, Will? Will, yes, I'm naming this episode in your honor. It's called Fire at Will. I don't know why.
I apologize for being late. I got hung up on something.
That's another reason to call it Fire at Will, because, you're fired. Anyway. All right, you guys, thank you for joining me. I had a blast. I am definitely going to invite you guys back again for future discussion. There's a lot going on in the future. And any last thoughts, anybody, before we go?
I can't wait till September 24th.
Is it? That's for the UK, though, right? Because in the same trailer, they said September 24th, and if you watch it, which I have 20 million times, it also says on September 25th, which is kind of either a error, or they're saying that Netflix, because you see the Netflix thing on the right side, is going to do it on the 24th, and then CBS will have it.
I believe CBS has it first, and Netflix can immediately.
No, I
after.
think it's the opposite, actually. I think it's Netflix first.
No, I just watched.
No,
the
Wait a minute,
trailer
it's going to be
again
on
now,
Netflix?
and CBS.
It's
Only for the UK, not for us.
It's CBS
Well,
first. It's in a
CBS
different.
first.
It's on a different show. It's on a different network in Canada, and then Netflix gets the international release.
The
Netflix
day after.
gets the UK thing.
Netflix is everywhere but the U.S. and Canada.
Yeah.
So
Hopefully that'll change.
that's absolutely horrendous.
Save it for another topic.
That's a whole other other debate.
Yeah, we've talked
Suffice
about
to
this
say, it's the 24th on CBS All Access, 25th on Netflix.
I do
Okay,
have to
the
wrap this-
last thing I would like to say is, guys, shut up complaining and wait for the first episode of either of these things before you complain.
My thoughts
Well-
exactly.
Well said. We do have
Agreed.
to go. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I love you guys. I want to talk about this more, and I will re-invite you for a future episode, and there's going to be a lot to talk about. So thank you for joining us, and for everybody listening, we'll talk to you next time.